Welcome to r/RedditRevenge. This is a story of someone getting back at someone with revenge after being wronged. And today we have 3 great stories. So subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. I got an additional $39,000 in pay for accidentally telling the salon gossip my secret. The second story. One of my fellow employees steals a company card and starts making Uber Eats and other purchases in my name to get me fired. The third story. Lazy coworker doesn't help at work and leaves a mess. Today's first story is got $40K for accidentally telling my secret to the salon gossip. I worked at a chain salon in the US for minimum wage, plus tips. We got paid on a sliding scale. The more you added services, the more your hourly pay. Then for back to school, we started offering $10 haircuts. It's dumb to offer a big discount on back to school because that's when everyone needs a haircut, but whatever. Except, to advertise this sale, we had to stand on a rickety step stool and hang a 10-foot long, 3-foot wide banner off the roof of our store. The step stool alone made it a dangerous task, but on top of it, the sidewalk was uneven. Our manager insisted we do twice a day, open and close, in case someone steals the banner, because certainly someone would want to steal a banner with our logo that says $10 haircuts. It was annoying, but I was looking forward to my next paycheck. I had a high service dollar per hour, which should have meant a bigger hourly pay and paycheck, except it didn't. That $7 haircut discount, it was coming out of our final service dollar calculations, and we ended up making significantly less than usual. I'd worked there for years, and this was the smallest back-to-school paycheck I'd ever seen. I went in the next day and was peeved. That morning, a coworker, who was a total brown nose and gossip, and I were outside setting up the banner. It was my turn to stand on the rickety step stool, and I said I was glad this will be the last time I ever do this. I was fully prepared to make a joke about how I was going to fall and crack my head open, when the petty revenge idea came into my mind, and I swiftly executed it. When she asked why, I told her not to tell anyone, but I'd accepted a job at another salon with a set schedule, higher commission, and $5 more an hour. I said I'd planned on putting in my 2 weeks, but they needed me to start sooner, so I was going to work the weekend and not come back. After reiterating she could not tell anyone, especially not our boss, she agreed. I left early that day, and on my next shift, my boss pulled me into her office. She said she'd heard a rumor that I was leaving to work at a different salon. I told her I had a much better offer elsewhere, but if she could match that, I would love to stay. She had put a call into our district manager about the raise, but said I could work with a set schedule starting the following week. I was consistently ranked number 2 in sales for our store and the district, so the DL approved the raise, and I stayed there another 5 years, which means I got an additional $39,000 in pay for accidentally telling the salon gossip my secret. I also got 20% commission on $500 to $1,000 a week in product sales. Bonus revenge. I also started printing out my service sales slip from the day before at the beginning of every shift, so that when payroll readjusted the paychecks to include coupons, I could pull up my record and dispute it. According to payroll, there was nothing they could do about it. A few months after I left, a different employee in another state filed a class action lawsuit, and I got a letter asking if I wanted to be a part of it. I accepted, and the lawyer loved receiving 5 years worth of documentation, emails from corporate and payroll, etc. They had to go back through all my paychecks and compensate me for the difference. 19 cents an hour here and 30 cents an hour there added up a lot, and despite the fact that the settlement was split with a lot of people, I got $10K from that in addition to my adjusted pay, which was around half the settlement amount. The next story is when someone tried to get you fired, but you have a reverse card. This incident blew up in March 2021, in the middle of lockdowns and stuff. It would probably be recognizable to people I work with. Hopefully they don't read this thread, haha. It's a story about someone whose ambition was bigger than their ethics, and the law, and it coming back to bite them. At the time, I was working as a manager in a mid-sized business. While I was there, I was assigned a new member to my team. I'll call her Evil. Evil was in her mid-20s and was pretty fresh out of college. She was the kind of person who could talk your ear off about all of her ideas and plans and what she was working on, but never really seemed to have anything to show for it. When I talked to her about clients complaining that she wasn't getting back to them, she'd always have an excuse about how difficult they were, how snowed under she was, and how she had written an email but it must have gotten lost in spam, so on and so forth. Basically never her fault. It got to the point where after one of our monthly meetings, I called her in and explained that if she couldn't get her tasks done, she needed to let us know, so we could help delegate resources to make sure things weren't slipping through the cracks. I'll admit, I was pretty direct. Her performance was impacting the whole team, and my job was literally to keep the team on track. I get that people can be under pressure, that there can be stuff going on at home which impacts work, and that sometimes people need a bit of help. But if every time I ask about a project you say, yep, everything's good, I've got it under control, and then it all falls apart and your only response is to blame the client, we have a problem. I explained that I wasn't going to start formal performance management or anything like that, but from now on I'd like her to check in with me on Monday mornings for 10 minutes, to go over objectives for the week, and to check if she needed support with any of her clients. I know it isn't fun to be micromanaged, so I tried to keep these check-ins short, and mostly just offer assistance on stuff. She clearly hated my guts though, and apparently was hatching her own ProRevenge. Now, part of my role included use of a purchasing card, which wasn't in my name, but I had access to. I was given the card to basically make small purchases for the office, or spend up to $500 on clients. The card was kept in an office I shared with another team manager, where we both could access it when we needed it. One day I get a call from accounts asking about a few abnormal purchases on the card. A Photoshop subscription, a couple of Uber Eats orders, an HBO subscription, etc. I say I don't know anything about them, and they should check with the other team manager. Apparently the other team manager didn't know anything about them either, because after the weekend I get called into Big Boss's office. After my colleague and I had denied involvement, accounts had started calling Adobe and Uber and stuff to find out where the transactions were coming from. They said that not only were the accounts in my name, they were registered to an email address with my name in it too, e.g. word.roll3@domain.com or something. I can't describe what it felt like to be in that meeting. I felt physically sick. I couldn't work out what was happening. I was so shocked I didn't know what to say. I felt like I was about to get fired and couldn't understand how that was even possible. The director was going on about how access to the card was a privilege, that I had signed an agreement about appropriate use and so on and so forth. I decided that I'd been using it inappropriately, and the boss listened, but I could tell he wasn't that convinced. To be honest, in my head I was gaslighting myself, and worrying that I had somehow saved the card in Google, and maybe my wife had been accidentally using it or something. It was terrible, and I found myself apologizing and saying I don't know how this happened. I assure you that I know that none of those expenses are appropriate uses of company funds. There must have been some kind of mistake. Can I please have the details and look into it? Etc, etc. When I finally got out of that office, job still intact, barely, Evil was waiting for me at my office door. She was grinning from ear to ear, and sweetly explained she'd been waiting for our morning meeting. I told her something had come up and we'd do the meeting tomorrow, and she said, "Oh, will you be in tomorrow?" Confused because I didn't know I was in a ProRevenge thread at the time. I just replied, "Yeah, why would I not be in tomorrow?" And she just sipped her tea and said, "Oh, no reason," turned around and went back to her desk. Something fell off, but I was still worrying about what had happened with the boss, so I spent the next couple of hours calling my wife, calling Adobe, and doing the same legwork that accounts had done. It became very obvious that someone had been using my name and the company card to spend a bunch of money online. Had I been hacked or something? Personal info on the dark web and these hackers just really wanted Photoshop and Wendy's delivered? It was the Uber Eats that was her undoing. After getting on the phone and talking through what had gone on, and obviously giving my name for the account and everything, the fellow on the phone told me where the food had been delivered. It was in our city, which made me rule out straight away any notion of my data being sold online or something. Now I was suspicious and peeved. I don't like to think the worst of people, but now I was. Listening to my gut, I pulled up Evil's employee information and checked her address. I pulled it up on Google Maps, dropped a pin on her place, and then looked for the address Uber Eats had given me. It was the corner of her effing block. I was furious. When she left work for the day, I got IT to give me access to her laptop. Sure enough, when I opened up her domain.com account, under her listed accounts was word.roll3@domain.com. There were some things she'd been smart about. The IP address she had been using was the office, which would have tied back to me. She'd even had the food delivered to a different address. She'd even made a fake email address, but saving her passwords on a work computer was a mistake. I called the boss that night and explained what I had found, and kept the IT guy with me to support the fact that I hadn't just logged into her computer and made it all up. The next day, the boss called her into the office and fired her so bad there were red trucks lining up outside the building. When she teary-eyed left his office, I made sure I was standing in the hall sipping a cup of tea. It had gotten cold while I waited for her, but still tasted sweet. I hope she went home that night, because if she did, she would have received some nice goodbye Wendy's delivered by Uber Eats. Paid for on my personal card, of course. Revenge and justice can be the same thing, right? In the end, she was fired. The boss apologized and we were on good terms when I left in October for a new gig. She never apologized and I haven't seen her since. The boss decided not to get police involved and neither did I. I just didn't want the hassle. I generally get on with everyone I work with, but I knew she hated me. Glad it ended the way it did. The last story is, don't help me all day? I have the fix for that. Some backstory. I work in a manufacturing plant. The place has a lot of different machines and different technicians to work in different areas on the production line. If a tech works in Section B, he doesn't work in Sections A or C. Some techs have training in multiple areas, so they work in A and B but not C. Enter my workplace annoyance, B-Face. B-Face is a lazy A, trained in areas A and B. His favorite trick is to say he's helping in the area that's the least busy. So if nothing's going on in Area A, he'll be supporting that, regardless of how busy Area B is. Amusing side note, one of my coworkers with a truly impressive beard loathes B-Face because B-Face has a beard, and my coworker thinks B-Face has done nothing to earn the manliness of a true beard. Today at work, B-Face was told by the boss to support the area I was in today, Area A, and he had decided to do a very easy job and call it good. While usually I can take a breather in between machines breaking or scheduled work, today was just nuts. Everything was breaking, everything was critical, and I was stretched super thin trying to cover it all. Meanwhile, B-Face was nowhere to be seen, ostensibly helping out Area B, where I was later told nothing was happening. Boss was busy with a bunch of things, and B-Face is very good at hiding. I was tired and headachy when I went through my final walkthrough in my area, cleaning it up and making sure the oncoming shift was set for success. Shout out to my night shift guy, he rocks. And there I happened upon the glorious tool of my revenge, the toolbox B-Face had set up next to the machine he worked on for all of 45 minutes. It was a mess. Tools were strewn around, chemicals were left out, cleaning supplies tossed on whatever flat surface would hold them. Big no-no. Chemicals alone are not to be left out, but obviously cleaning up after yourself is a big deal. I went to the meeting room where we do our shift change. We give information as to what equipment is broken and needs more work, and we talk about what we did that day, and anything coming up for maintenance. Both shifts and both shift bosses are there. We did our turnover, and just when B-Face was about to leave, I called out, "Hey guy I totally don't call B-Face, you left the toolbox over behind the machine. I didn't get the chance to clean up after you. I was just so busy." He froze like a deer in the headlights and slowly looked over to me. B-Face loves to leave ASAP, if not before, and this would delay him. Night shift boss, a cranky old Irishman, with a thick accent to boot, has zero patience for people who don't clean, and he rounds on B-Face. "Oi, don't tell me you left cleaning chemicals out." B-Face, Night shift boss, "God bloody hell, this is the kind of SH that gets people in trouble with safety and blah blah blah." Night shift boss is pretty chill, but hates dealing with safety and all that. I left him there getting lectured, while he clearly wanted to go home and leave. Thing is, I would have cleaned up for him if things were quieter in my area. Shame I had no help today. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button.